has a bungalow here in Cheshire East, had refusal for prior approval using Class AA, which is the ability on bungalows to add an additional story under PD, and it was refused as the proposed extension would result in the raising of the eaves of the dwelling, which in turn would significantly increase its scale, mass and bulk, which would subsequently result in a principal elevation which would appear unduly prominent and incongruous within the street scene and the wider area. So interesting, what's really good about this is that when you do prior approval, officers' reports are often set out like this, and it'll say, this is the legislation, does it comply or not, yay or nay? And this is a really clear report. All of this here says, in all of these subsections, A, complies, 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 complies. Great start. And then you start again on the conditions. Are the materials of a similar appearance? Yes, it complies. It must not include a window. Yes, complies. Roof pitch, complies. Impact on amenity. This is a very good one. So this means with you adding an additional story, you're not going to impact the amenity. People's enjoyment of their property or their lives. So amenity can be impact on light, noise, overshadowing, enclosure, overlooking. So that's why if you're impacting the amenity of someone, sometimes that's why they ask for a daylight sunlight report to say, don't worry about it, they get enough sun. And then we go to the street scene elevation. It's basically adding the story under prior approval. And as we said in this report, so far all good. It's all complies, and it's even gone into the detail of saying it doesn't impact on 6 to 9, these numbers at Castlegate, because I noticed in your application there were people that objected from those addresses, which is very good. So you've got a lot of things that are good with this, right? And then it gets to the external appearance of the dwelling house. So this is the external appearance, does not comply. And it's throwing this case law at you, basically saying that the surroundings matter. It's not just the original building. You know, you're not the first one to try this. So people have gone to appeal, Hell for Leather, and it's gone to appeals, and that's why he's throwing all these case law at you. So this is really, I think it's this paragraph is the most important one. And often, by the way, in officers' reports, they're so dense, and it often comes down to one paragraph, and you just got to kind of know where to look. So although there are various styles of dwellings in the wider area, the resulting dwelling would be a true 2-story dwelling, and it's basically saying it would result in the significant increase in height and the ease of the dwelling on its principal elevation. This has the resulting impact in scale, mass compared to the immediate surrounding properties. This resulting impact is deemed to result in incongruous development. So the reason they're throwing that case law at you is basically they're saying, okay, the surrounding areas matter, and we are very, very consistent in this area. Because you're at the top of a hill, anything you add is going to be added scale. So what they're saying is, by adding a full, going straight up like that, you're suddenly going to be out of character, it's going to be bulky, and it's not going to work. So to my mind, in that reading, I don't think prior approval, it will work on this site. So to my mind, and I don't know if you're trying to achieve a specific amount of floor space, but as I've, I'm a big proponent of permitted development rights, but sometimes you've got to play what's in front of you and just say, look, prior approval is not going to work here, because if you follow it to the letter of the law, we have this external appearance clause, and it's not going to work for these reasons, this case law, blah, blah, blah. We're protecting this area. But what they did say is that there's a lot of 1.5-story properties in this area. So this is the permitted development order, and I was going through Class AA to see if there was any. What I was trying to find was it saying you just need to go up. It doesn't matter how you go up; you just go up, which would give you the freedom of design. Right. But the critical thing in the GPDO, it says, so development is permitted by Class AA subject to the following conditions in subparagraphs 2 and 3, and in 2C you can go up. So 2A says the materials are consistent. Yeah, the development must not include a window. Yeah, you've done all that. But then this one is this is why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting. It's saying the roof pitch of the principal part of the dwelling house following the development must be the same. So that's basically saying that you've only got the option to replicate what you've got. It's basically saying, okay, that's your pitch. If you're going to use this class, you have to go up like that. It's not, the prior approval doesn't allow you to do that or do that or whatever. So that's why I'm suggesting householder, and that you could replicate local design and maybe get some success. Now, the reason I normally suggest permitted development rights is because they are black and white. There's no conditions attached to them. So I went to the next level and say, for householder applications, which is anything to do with a single dwelling house, so full planning permission deals with everything else that isn't a house. So your house, you'd be a householder. Mm-hmm. And the reason being, they're a bit more of they're simpler applications. And what I wanted to check with recent decisions in the local area was what conditions have they attached? Basically, how onerous have they been on any development they've attached? Because that's the issue, really. A lot of councils will allow stuff, but they'll put on crazy conditions that will make you apply for all this extra stuff, which is just down the road from you. Notice of decision. So it's approved, blah, blah, blah. And then the conditions they've attached are really standard. So the first three are always the same, really. The development shall commence within 3 years. That's standard. You must be in compliance with the drawings that you've submitted. That's standard. The materials shall be strictly within the drawings that you submitted. That's standard. And then they've done one small thing here, which is saying that one of the windows should be obscured, which can easily be overcome because you've already covered kind of the amenity issue in your prior approval. They've said that the amenity is fine. What they're saying here is that we want obscure glazing so you can't peer into someone's bedroom, basically. Prior approval is a really good option, but what they're throwing the book at you, they're basically shutting you down using prior approval. So that's what I see, and that's what I think could be the way forward on the site. Because the reason I'm suggesting householder is because it allows you to do a different design. So you can apply for anything you want. You can apply for like the Eiffel Tower if you want. It doesn't matter. The reason I'm saying that you need to go through householder is because PD is specifically saying that you have to keep the roof slope and pitch the way it is. So it's saying that if you're going to go up, you have to go up like that. It's not giving you chance to change the design in that. So that's why I'm saying householder, which is a kind of simpler exercise. So you should only have to submit plans. You don't have to submit any other stuff to justify your proposal and you've got what you can write in your statement is like, we don't need to submit stuff on amenity because we submitted a prior approval that was much bigger than this. And you said it was fine then. So this is fine. You don't need to submit a daylight sunlight report or anything like that. So that's what I'm saying. So you submit the application through that. So once you click that, it has its own application process. And look, it gives you guidance. An application for an alteration to an existing house, such as extensions, conservatories, loft conversions, or outbuildings. This does not include flats. And then you've got full planning permission, which is everything else. So these are, ridiculously as it is, these are all the different applications. And then you have all these prior approval, change of use, prior approval, all these different prior approvals for the different parts of the legislation. So the point of the story is there's different application types. There's an application for PD, there's an application for householder, and there's an application for other things like different types of prior approval. Yeah, it really depends on your design, basically. It depends on how well you have done your research, how acceptable your scheme is. I mean, the stats will be the stats, but they won't really be true they won't reflect much because so many applications are refused because people don't know what they're doing. If there was a kind of sample size of kind of approval rates versus people that know what they're doing and people that don't know what they're doing, it'd be vastly different. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. And I must caveat this by saying nothing is certain in planning. I think we all have established that. The point of this is to say that there are steps you can take to vastly improve your chances, or at least whittle the issues down to one thing. Because if you're really shit and you submit an application that's not great, they'll throw everything at you. And they'll be like, oh God, this is so overwhelming. We can throw the distances. Okay, now I'm 1.5 story. I'm a chalet style building. I'm still a bungalow. You know,